Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host, G1. As always, I hope you are having a good week. It has been a good one for me. I hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. I did. Spent time with the family and spent some time around the area over the weekend doing some hiking. Hit some trails that I had not been on before, which was great. I found a good place to go do a little 2.5 mile loop or 3 mile loop, and it can actually be a little bit larger if I want it to be, with a kind of a side trail. So that's going to be really good. Put the old rucksack on and go do that. But anyway, and got to visit some people that I haven't seen in a little while. So it was good. It was good times. So I was mostly detached from the news and not really following things all that closely as I normally do. But you got to take a break every once in a while and kind of back away from things. But something happened overseas that we're going to talk about today, and I'm talking about the situation in Ireland. I am a little behind on this due to the timing of that. It happened, and last week I had the interview show, which was great, and I'm glad you guys got a chance to hear that. But I'm a little behind on the timing of this. And I want to go into it because I think it's kind of a microcosm of what is happening in the West in general. And we can see it all kind of play out in this very odd kind of compressed timeline. What has happened in Western countries, continental Europe and the United States over years is happening all in the course of a week or two here in Ireland. And I really don't want to do this show, to be honest, because, I'm originally from Scot-Irish stock, and it pains me. It pains me to see where the homeland of my ancestors, where it is, and what's being done to them. And make no mistake, this is being done to the people of Ireland and people of Scotland as well. This is not something that the people really want. I don't believe for 1 second that the majority of people that live in these European countries want this. This is being forced upon them, being forced upon the nations of the West by traders who have sold out for their piece of silver. But we need to watch this situation because I think this could be a turning point or a defining moment that kind of turns the tide, because if they can do this to the Irish and get away with it, then there's no real hope for Western Europe, and all focus kind of shifts to the East, to be honest. And that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing. So let's kind of go over the timeline of this, just a brief look at it. November the 23rd, around 1:30 in the afternoon, and that's Greenwich Mean Time, so it might have been an hour off, based off of time zones. I'm not sure exactly where the time zone for Dublin is, but anyway, around 1:30 in the afternoon, an Algerian man attacked 3 children and a caregiver outside of an East Dublin school. 2 of the victims were children aged 5 and 6, and they were later released from the hospital with just minor injuries. But one of the victims, a 5-year-old, is still currently in the hospital. And I have seen reports that she is in a medically induced coma, although that's not something I can confirm. I know she's in the hospital still, at least as of me putting this story together. The attacker was tackled to the ground and disarmed by a couple of people who were walking by. It's 3 people walking by. And shortly after this happened, social media exploded with reports of this attack. And by 6 p.m. that evening, Irish people had hit the streets in Dublin and were protesting this. And it escalated into a full-on riot. 34 people arrested, and a dozen or more shops were set on fire, along with multiple police vehicles being burned. And they were protesting because this man was an immigrant, and there is an immigrant issue that is, taking place in Ireland. The political parties of Ireland wasted no time jumping on this and blaming everything on so-called far-right extremists. This is apparently the focus group trigger phrase that has been kind of greenlit for this public relations campaign, because every chance they got, they were throwing that phrase out there. It's far-right extremism to want your children to not be stabbed by foreigners in your country. That's a far-right extremist position. Now, the response to this is sickening, honestly. It's terrible. What the media and these political parties are doing is, again, it's a mini version of what we see here in the U.S. And now, I don't pretend to know Irish politics and their political parties. I have a general understanding of the situation, the historic, the between Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, and the religious differences which have led to this conflict over hundreds of years. But I don't know where specific political parties stand, on the issues that ail the Irish people these days. I can't really, judge that just based off of the party names or these specific politicians or anything like that. So I can't get too deep into that. But what I do know is that every politician that I saw quoted said nothing that indicates that they are against immigration into Ireland and in support of native Irish people. No one came out and said anything about that. No one said, hey, maybe this immigration thing is a huge problem and it's leading to crimes like this. No one said anything like that. Even Sinn Féin, very famous political wing of the IRA, turned this incident into basically a political jab against some of the other parties, saying, oh, well, these specific officials should step down. Not really acknowledging anything other than the cursory, oh, this was a terrible event, talking about the stabbing. They focus more on the riot that happened afterwards. The most telling comments come from the Irish leader himself, Leo Varadkar. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He said he was shocked by the knife attack and praised the emergency services for responding very quickly. But he said that the rioters had brought shame to Dublin for their families and themselves, and were not motivated by patriotism but by hate and their love of violence and chaos and causing pain to others. And he pledged to use the full resources of the law to go after the rioters. So rather than address the root cause of the issue, the concerns of Irish people about all of the things that go with immigration, rather than address those, he turns the machinery of the state against the people who are opposed to immigration. Now, Varadkar was born in Ireland, but he is of Indian descent, which is interesting. Where have we seen that pattern before? A person of foreign descent becoming the leader of a country and then opening the doors to a massive influx of foreign immigrants to that country. This influx alters the demographic and voting base, which swings the political parties further and further from the interest of the native population. And eventually this evolves into weaponization of the government against those of the native population who offer any type of resistance to that shift. And make no mistake, this is what is playing out all over the West, and it's in full swing right now in Ireland. The media mobilized within hours, and they were shifting the focus of this event from the actual violent attack on the children to the riot in Dublin, and demonizing the people who attended that protest. They are the problem. The bots took to Twitter to profess that the most dangerous thing in Ireland were white Irish men, not the immigrants, illegal or otherwise. They deflected the nature of the attacker by saying, well, he was not an illegal immigrant because he was a naturalized citizen who had been in Ireland for 20 years, as if that mattered. The man was homeless, and he had been arrested for possession of a knife and damage to a car back in June. And he was only naturalized in 2014. So he spent many, many years in Ireland, not sure what the nature of his situation was. Was he illegal or was he on work visas? I don't know. But it's very likely that the man was being treated like many other immigrants to these countries in the West get treated, meaning he was being handled softly and bounced in and out of criminal justice systems because no one wants to actually deal with the criminal behavior of immigrants. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and some of them may be quite legitimate, but we could probably have hours of conversation about it. But, let's move on there. It's clear he was benefiting from lax treatment by the justice system. And now he's committed a heinous crime. Luckily, at least so far, none of the victims have died from this attack. Now, that's not the end of this, of course, because things keep turning. As I mentioned, social media took to this, and the comments from all over the world began to come in. Elon Musk even commenting about it. And we'll get to those in a second, but I want to highlight some other actions by the government. And this is reported to us or is coming out via social media. So it's kind of why I put it here, but also saying that because we don't know the validity of all this. These may or may not be true. I just want to throw that caveat out there just to be sure, because the attention that this event gained, it appears that the government went into damage control mode. And what is being reported is that behind the scenes, the Gardaí, which is the Irish police, have done several things that, well, you judge for yourself. If these are true or not, like I said, I don't know. You can decide, and you can judge for yourself whether the morality of these accusations. As I mentioned earlier, there were reports that the young girl who was one of the victims of this attack is still in the hospital in a coma. And what is being reported is that access to her is being denied, or was denied to her parents, unless they agreed to not talk publicly about this incident. And this is also being reported regarding one of the men who subdued the attacker. It is rumored that the Gardaí told him that he needed to keep quiet about the incident so as not to endanger the prosecution. That may or may not be true. As I said, this is a rumor, but it's consistent with something that we have seen here in the United States that recently came to light. A recent attack that was racially motivated and unfortunately led to the death of a white teenager in Nevada brought to light a group or unit within the Department of Justice whose role is to encourage the victims' families to release statements that dismiss or diminish racial motivations to the attack and downplay the racial angles to minority on white violence. It seems like the fear is that if people know how often whites are the victims of racial crimes, that they may not be happy about that, and they may change their minds politically. And this appears to be happening in Ireland as well. That there's a unit of the Gardaí that has the same function. Now, people need to ask themselves, if there's a unit of government law enforcement devoted to this, how often does it happen? It must be a lot, and those in charge obviously don't want you to know that because they fear what you will do with that information. They fear a family of the victim coming out and saying, no mercy, calls for retribution, calls for justice. They don't want to see that. Now, moving on to the other social media aspects. Conor McGregor, the MMA and boxing star, as well as Irish native, weighed in on the situation with some scathing comments posted on Twitter X. I'll try to post those in the video for you to read yourself, but basically, he trashed the government of Ireland and said enough is enough. He said that the government no longer stands with the Irish people and is only concerned with the well-being of immigrants, and that it has to stop. Now, that's a summary. It's not his exact words, but to me, there was also kind of an undertone of or else to his comments. And the Irish government also picked up on that because they've launched an investigation into Conor for inciting hate and hate speech. The old classic action of government. Punish the man who calls out that the emperor has no clothes. So what say ye, Irishman? Which way will you go? I find it sad and depressing that the sons of Ireland, who stood for hundreds of years and went to war over and over with the English to resist occupation and rule of Ireland, are going to roll over and lick the hands of foreign people because they don't want to be called racist. It's fine to hate other white men who invade your country, but damn you if you ever speak a foul word against a poor dark-skinned person. This is a nation that has spawned an almost endless array of rebellion. Song after song, poem after poem, leader after leader, all praising the spirit of saying no. This is the blood of my ancestors. It's the same spirit that came to America and was instrumental in the founding of our country. It's something that is just in the DNA of our country as well. Over and over throughout history, these people have given no pause when confronted by a demand to comply with foreign orders in saying no. It's just the default reaction. Now, we know that some people there still have some fire left in them, but is there just so little left in the tank that the one night of resistance in Dublin is all that's left? Now, you have a man that is a fighter who has indicated that he is willing to stand. And I'm not saying he should be the leader, but perhaps he should inspire a new Irish nationalist movement that will stand up and say no. There's a line in the song "The Wind That Shakes the Barley," which is one of my favorite Irish songs, by the way. And the line says, "But harder still to bear the shame of foreign chains around us." Well, are the chains of England that you fought against any different than the chains of Brussels? Those on the continent demand that you fill your lands with people vastly different to you, to the point that your culture will be replaced. And this is somehow different and better than the English? What say ye, Irishman? And what say ye, Western man? Because don't think this is for the Irish alone. It's a question that we're all going to have to answer. That's all I have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.